What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're going to be talking about Hulk number 6 by Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly who I think the mysterious Betty is inside of Bruce's Mindscape. And we're going to talk about exactly what the hell is Titan. We're going to talk about this all right now. But first, let's hit that intro.
You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
We haven't really talked about Donny Cates' Hulk on this channel here in a while. Now, some people might think because I haven't been enjoying it. No, not actually the case. I've actually been quite fondly enjoying it. Just, I didn't really know where it was going, and I don't like really talking about things I don't know anything about. So I decided to wait until I had a bit more insight with what's going on with Hulk. And right now, I can tell you not really a whole heap of a lot has changed. We still don't really know exactly what it was that happened that caused Bruce to completely turn his back on his Hulk alter ego. All we know is that Hulk killed a lot of people. That's really the only thing we have to go with. There was some kind of a event, and apparently he killed a bunch of innocent people who may or may not have done anything wrong. We don't know. We don't really have the full story on it because Bruce has gone gallivanting off into the multiverse, and he has found himself on an Earth where there's a version of Bruce Banner who never became the Hulk, but instead used the same technology and scientific practices that led to the creation of the Hulk to make weapons of mass destruction in the form of Hulks. We even got to see what happens when a character like Peter Parker becomes a monstrous version of the Hulk. It was pretty entertaining and terrifying at the same time. But the thing that's been teased for like the last 2 or 3 months is that there is going to be a quotey fingers Null-like presence, because it's Donny Cates, and since he did Venom, and Venom had Null, and while Thor kind of just recently dealt with his own, I guess, kind of version of Null twice actually in the Donny Cates run, if you want to include not just the evil version of Donald Blake and the Mother Storm turning on Thor during the pages of Donny Cates' run thus far. I guess you could kind of consider all that, but he's working on Hulk, so clearly Hulk needs a Null of his own, which is fine. I know some people aren't crazy about it. I'm actually not really terribly crazy about it myself. I kind of feel like it's a trope that's going to get overused, but I'm curious to see where it goes, and I'm willing to give it a chance, and that's exactly what I did. I decided to wait until we actually saw what the hell was going on, and well, here we are. In the previous issue of Hulk number 5, Betty took a very weird turn. Now, we knew this wasn't really Betty because, this is in Bruce's mind, but this version of Betty seemed like they were trying so hard to keep Bruce from being so hard on the Hulk, and now I think we know why. This Betty has basically been trying to get Bruce to do the opposite of everything that she's telling him to do because she knows that Bruce is not going to listen to what she has to say, as she's begging Bruce not to push the Hulk so far, raising the levels of the engine room, having him go against all of these increased threats, which give him more power to control the actual Hulk on the outside. That's a whole other thing. Go back and see the previous video I did for the Hulk if you want to know more about what that is and why that's happening. But in the end, it turns out Betty was just waiting for Bruce to push the Hulk one step too far. And this Betty isn't even really Betty. We find out in this issue when she refers to herself as Betty, she uses quotey fingers to refer to herself as such, and she also in the previous issue of Hulk number 5 referred to him as son, and she often refers to him as such even in this issue, which when I initially saw that in Hulk number 5, the first thing I thought of was, well, that's gotta be Brian Banner. Now, the last time we saw Brian Banner was in Immortal Hulk number 42. And for those who don't remember, Brian Banner was absorbed by the leader, who also was being kind of possessed by the One Below All. It was a really weird, hot mess of things going on at that time, but it all worked out and it was a really cool story. But we didn't really know what happened to Brian Banner after that. Once he was absorbed by the leader in the One Below All, he kind of just disappeared. We saw him pop up briefly to gloat when the leader realized his plan to create his own gamma circuit wasn't working the way that he would have wanted it to. We didn't really see Brian Banner after that, and we all know he has an obsession with messing with Bruce and trying to control the Hulk, so it just kind of makes sense. But what is this Titan that is supposed to be Hulk's version of Null? Well, as it turns out, Brian has given us all the clues. He muses about how everybody has a Hulk, that, Bruce has a Hulk, Betty has a Hulk, Amadeus Cho and Jennifer and all these other characters. He even mentions that Wolverine has a Hulk, mostly referring to Weapon H, not actual Wolverine himself. But he talks about how all these different people have Hulks. And he's like, well, why can't the Hulk have a Hulk of his own? And that's pretty much what this is. While the Hulk has been trapped in the engine room of Banner's Mindscape, Banner himself had been putting him through his paces, raising the level of the engine room to the point now he's fighting the Inhumans and demons and Thanos and even a Galactus Hulk and the Living Tribunal, for Christ's sakes. All the while, the actual Hulk, the Hulk's body in the outside world, is going against these weird mutated versions of Hulks that might remind you of the redneck Hulks from Old Man Logan. And while all this is happening, Quody Fingers Betty is turning up the juice, sending more and more threats after the Hulk in the engine room to overpower the Hulk in the real world, to the point that he is so overblown that he grows to be over 30 feet tall, his skin turns into like a blackened, charred type color, and he's literally radiating red electric energy, likely gamma energy. Now, whether or not this means he is a cosmic powered Hulk is a whole other story. As we know, in the previous Immortal Hulk story arc, Joe Fixit became a cosmic powered Hulk after going toe-to-toe with the UFOs. What this is, it's hard to say, but whatever it is, we know that he doesn't call himself Titan, but that's what the people on that Earth have decided to refer to him as. For all intents and purposes, Titan is kind of similar to what you get when Bruce hulks out, he turns into the Hulk. Well, what happens when the Hulk hulks out? Well, he becomes Titan. Now, the first thing I thought of when seeing Titan, fully on panel for the first time is, I want to say we actually talked about this not that long ago, about who could this new Hulk potentially be, or what could he potentially be tied to. And the first thing I remember thinking about was the Axis storyline, where the Hulk became Claw. The Hulk's Hulk. That's what this guy actually looks like. The resemblance is not necessarily the most uncanny of things, but it is pretty damn close, and I'm wondering exactly how much of this is actually tied to that Axis storyline. I mean, it's something that a lot of people don't typically love to talk about, but there are some aspects of the Axis story arc that are still hanging around today. But that's neither here nor there. We don't really know exactly whether this is the Hulk's Hulk or not from Axis, but if it was, or if it's connected in some way to it, I honestly would not be the least bit surprised. Now, of course, Banner being trapped in the Mindscape with this, Brian Banner-esque villain who had previously shot him out of an airlock, Banner is able to get back into the control room and he unleashes the Hulk. Now, this doesn't go exactly the way I think anyone was expecting it to, because even I thought that once the Hulk got out of that engine room, the first person he was going to try and kill is Banner, but it's actually not what he does. And the more you think about it, it's like, oh, well, yeah, why would he? I mean, yeah, sure, Banner is using him and abusing him, but we also got to remember that the Hulk has the mentality of a child. This is something that was showcased in Immortal Hulk when Al Ewing was writing that series, and we saw how easily Brian Banner was able to manipulate the Hulk. Whereas the Hulk should have been ready and willing to kill Brian Banner for all the pain and suffering and harm that he's caused, not just to himself, but to everyone in Hulk's orbit, and yet he didn't do anything to him. He actually sat there, wept like a child, basically let Brian do whatever he wanted to Devil Hulk and Bruce Banner. He was literally a weeping sack of feelings for the next several issues. So in this, I'm actually not surprised that Hulk forgave Banner and turned his frustration towards not Betty. Now, there's an explosion that goes off that's taking place in potentially 3 different places in this issue, because we know that the alternate reality version of Bruce Banner, who has been coerced into releasing a gamma bomb to destroy the Hulk on that planet by President Thunderbolt Ross, because yes, some crazy idiot thought he would be a good president, though I mean, judging by our actual real world, I actually don't find it that hard to believe now that I've said it out loud. However, there's 3 potential explosions going off. We know that Titan is somehow about to unleash some kind of massive cosmic energy explosion. We know that the gamma bomb is going to unleash some kind of a massive explosion, and whatever it is the Hulk's about to do to not Betty could also potentially be explosive. But that explosion is only taking place in 2 different areas. Those areas being within the control room and in the real world. Hulk unleashes a massive gamma explosion in the control room that apparently decimates this not Betty, returning control of the Hulk back to Banner. However, Banner and Hulk are both in the engine room together. And this is something Bruce doesn't want to happen because he's worried that if he gets trapped in the engine room, he'll be subjected to the same pain and suffering that he's inflicted on the Hulk. That is what he's expecting. But that's the thing, Hulk has forgiven him. Hulk doesn't want to hurt Banner, yet Banner in his fear has run away from the Hulk and traps him back inside of it. Now, granted, it's probably a good thing he did because he has to act fast. That gamma bomb is plummeting towards the Earth and he's trying to save this Earth from being more messed up than it already is. Now, of course, Bruce, having to lock Hulk back in the engine room, is back to using his old tricks, using his imagination to send all sorts of threats against the Hulk just to power him so they can do what needs doing. However, I did note where Betty had turned things up well past 6. She very likely took things into the 7, 8, or 9 category on that lever that Bruce uses to control the aggro of this not danger room scenario. He actually drops everything to 4 just to get what he needs. But in doing all this, to destroy this gamma bomb, he has to utilize the same multiversal portal that he used to get there in the first place. And this is kind of where this leads us all into what's going to be happening with him going against Thor. I don't know if we'll see any more of Titan right away, but this is pretty much the end of the first story arc of this new Hulk series, so it's hard to say where this is exactly going to go. Are we going to find out what's up with Titan anytime soon? I'm not really certain, but I can definitely say Titan is what happens when the Hulk hulks out. That I am incredibly confident with. Anyways, let me know what you thought about Hulk number 6. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.